I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jesse.
We're Cannabis School. Having cannabis-infused conversations
with everyday people,
cannabis companies,
celebrities,
and your mom.
Welcome to the Sesh.
And Rich, I have followed you for years, brother. I am so thrilled. I'm honored to have you on our podcast, man.
Thank you. That's really kind of you to say. It's a pleasure to be on it. It's great. I'm really looking forward to this. That's awesome. This is cool. That should have happened like 20 years ago, but
oh shit, no, this is perfect. Like, yeah, and we'll just go right into that. So the way that I found Rich was through a Black Belt magazine in the early 2000s. I'm walking through, and I see this magazine. It says 10 deadliest people on planet Earth, and I was like, one, that was cool, but the best part was what he said. And they asked him a question like, Rich, what would have happened if you were on that plane during 9/11 going into the Twin Towers?
It made it in the magazine.
Yeah. And you said,
I've been telling the story like it never made it in the magazine.
No, that's fucking perfect because it was hilarious because I was just like, the best answer is like, I'd probably fucking die, right? And it just like,
yeah.
What else would I have done? Would I have been able to shred through the door? Like, come on, like, and I followed your work so well from everything from like conversations that you'd had while walking through the streets in Jamaica and having an opportunity with a woman you were seeing at the time. I mean, this is a long ass time ago.
Yeah, that was St. Martin in St. Martin.
Yes.
St. Martin. Yeah. You got a good memory, man.
Oh, I've got it's a steel trap, man. It's only pornographic. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, what you went throughout your whole life, I mean, all the stuff I could consume on YouTube, like I loved it. Tried to use the shredder as best as I could. You changed my mind on CQB when it came to any martial art, because I've been doing martial arts since I was 6, and I got rid of the dogmatic thing, much like you, but I wanted to take it through because cannabis, like, I know you've had a past with cannabis, and then you recently came back, and I want to get to that here in a little bit. But one of the things that I thought was so cool is that you were so open about your cannabis use because of what you've had to deal with, and you've gone through using medications, and you're like, fuck that, I don't want to do that anymore. So, but I just kind of want to go a little bit back. Like you've been in martial arts for a real long time, but when did cannabis start coming into your life?
In my early 30s, it came into my life, and it came into my life by fluke kind of deal.
The doctor?
Yeah, it was really, I lucked out with the doctor I had. So I had and still have a lot of the different physical pains due to my life.
Yeah.
And so most of my life, due to having been diagnosed as a child with ADHD, I had also that what came with that was insomnia. But I never made the correlation. I just thought I was an insomniac since my parents told me I was an insomniac since birth. The kid doesn't sleep. It's unbelievable. And so eventually I went to see a doctor, and I'm like, I can't sleep. I'm literally averaging on 4 or 5 hours and a night. So he started prescribing sleeping meds. And I can't remember which ones, Valium, this, that, or whatever at the time. But they worked. They knocked me the fuck out. But I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like a complete zombie and just slow. Caffeine wasn't enough to do it, so I started taking caffeine, ephedrine, and aspirin to kick me up. And so I found myself caught on this Elvis Presley kick of uppers and downers at the age of like 25. And I'm like, Doc, no, I don't want to live like this. Give me something else that doesn't make me groggy in the morning. Try this, try that. Nothing's fucking working. Eventually he tells me, and this is back in 99, I believe, he says to me, look, I'm not supposed to tell you this, and I can get in trouble for saying this, but have you tried smoking marijuana? I'm like, no, I don't do drugs. I don't touch alcohol. I don't drink. I don't fuck. I'm an athlete. I don't do that shit. He goes, no. And then he starts telling me the truth about fucking marijuana. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting because I've heard similar things. Okay, cool. All right. You know what? I'll give it a shot. So I gave it a shot. I found some, it's not hard to find. So I found some, especially what I was doing back in the day. It was,
It's everywhere.
I got some and it worked wonders. It was like, boom, fell asleep, woke up, no problem. And so I started using it for sleep and it worked like a fucking charm. And then eventually, what led me to using it daily was there was one particular day in 2005 where I was receiving some friends over. I had a deadline. I had an article to write for, I think it was Combat Magazine back in the UK. I had complete and utter writer's block. I was getting frustrated because every sentence I'd write was just shit and I'd delete it. And then, the time is ticking and my friends are coming. And at one point I dropped my pen. And at the time I was the type of person who suffered from both road rage and home rage. So misdirected anger, emotional dysregulation, right? The whole thing. So I dropped my pen at one point and I picked it up and it hit the table and I dropped it again and I fucking was losing my shit. I lifted my fist up. I was about to punch my computer. And then as I'm about to punch my computer, I saw half a joint in the ashtray next to the bed. And I'm like, fuck it. You know what? I need to calm down. I'm not going to smoke the whole thing. I'm not going to put myself to sleep. I'm just going to have one hit just to calm down. I took that one hit, and within maybe 3 minutes, I felt like the world's biggest idiot for wanting to punch my computer.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, that's completely retarded, because who's going to pay for the fucking new computer, asshole?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. And then I went, fuck it, and I took it, and then I started writing high. So I took another hit, and I continued writing. And fucking amazing shit came out.
Yeah.
But I didn't press send. I got to read this when I'm straight. Because back then, I wasn't high all the time. So every time I'd get high, I'd get fucking high. And it was, functionality was still a little, right? Whereas now, whether I'm high or not, no one can tell the difference.
Yes.
So, right. So, I waited till I sobered up. I read what I wrote. I couldn't believe what I wrote. I couldn't believe it was me who wrote what I wrote. And I went, fuck yeah, I'm sending that. And it was a great article. And it received a lot of, good accolades and shit like that. So at that point I went, okay, every time I write, I'm going to smoke. And every time I'm frustrated, I'm going to smoke. And then I realized, wow, like my thoughts, I could focus a lot better when I'm high. It was working for my ADHD without me knowing it was working for my ADHD, right?
Yeah.
So long story short, that's how I got into it.
Jesse was saying that you took a break from cannabis for a while.
Well, here's the thing. I hate smoking.
That's understandable.
I hate it. I cough all the time. I don't know how to smoke. I've been smoking for almost 20-something, like since 1998, 99. And I still cough my lungs every time like an amateur.
I do too, all the time.
Yeah.
It's been like a decade of cannabis use. And there's certain devices like George Jetson here. It's way nicer. Yeah, it's because it's made by Jet Filtration. It's now called George Jetson.
Stoners coming up. We wanted a smaller one for Elroy.
This is their extra small. So they don't make anything smaller than this.
Yeah, this is the smallest one. The other ones we've had some of our.
My cousin has one, and it's like that tall.
Yeah, it's like
it's solid.
But I agree with you. Like that's
the
the love-hate relationship with flower. It's like, oh, nothing's better, but I hate fucking coughing.
Yeah.
That's the start, and it takes a while too.
The headaches that you get from it after too.
I don't get that. It's just the coffee.
No.
That's it. And I eat the coffee. And I'm not a fan of smoking. People want to say, then why don't you eat it? Well, I have ADHD and later also diagnosed with autism, so I have both. So it doesn't process. I have to eat.
Metabolizes drugs differently, like any drug metabolizes differently in him. So the amount he eats, like most people would, good night for 3 days, right?
What's your dose of edibles?
Oh, I took 3,000 milligrams before boarding a plane just so I can sit down and not fucking be like this because I can't sit still.
Too much.
And it was too much, but it was weird because I still wasn't high, and I was just like, it felt like I took pseudoephedrine. Like my muscles just started tightening. I just got into my body, and I got really uncomfortable with myself, and that's all it did.
That's terrible. I wonder if it was like the specific strain or terpene that
Well,
one
I've
was
tried
made
every
with.
strain, every edible
Yeah.
imaginable.
Recently,
They just hit you
weighed in, it was,
differently.
what, 150?
1,500. No, it was yeah, they're packs of yeah, it's about 150 milligrams, so I take about 300 milligrams
Yeah. Okay.
and I smoke with it.
Yep.
So
See, that's about my dose. I can do that. I can take like
Oh, wow.
300 milligrams and
Oh, wow,
smoke
yeah.
because I drive and I do. I have,
He's got the metabolism of a
Cracked it.
hamster on
Yeah.
crack.
yeah,
Like
basically.
I
it's
feel yeah.
So I can take like 300 milligrams every 2 hours and I don't feel high. I can still smoke or puff on a pen or anything
Yeah.
through that time.
Yeah.
Um,
one of the funniest things that he made it for Instagram, and it was like one of our most downloaded videos we ever had, still to this date. He goes to a
float spa.
yeah,
It's a
float
sensory
spa.
deprivation tank.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
he's
right.
like, I just had 250 milligrams and I'm just going to go relax in this tank. And the comments are like, oh, yeah, having a panic attack in space.
Because I was like,
That
oh, it's
sounds-
great. You can turn off the lights so it's dark. You can turn off sound so there's no music playing. And the water is supposed to be the same temperature as your body so you lose all sense of feeling. So it's basically like floating around in space. When you have all of that off, and if you're actually like, but I wasn't high. But for everyone else thinking 250 milligrams and going to a
Yeah.
sensory deprivation tank, like I'm gonna go freak out. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds like heaven to me.
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
right?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, this was like the most relaxing, calming, like I had no pain in my body because I just, I felt weightless.
Your nervous system was in like just complete paradise.
Yeah. It's fantastic. But most people don't understand that when they don't have that same experience.
Yeah.
And so the dosing, it's like that terrifies them thinking, oh shit, like when you said you took 3,000 milligrams, I'm like, oh God, like I would feel that. The most I've ever had is maybe like 1,400 milligrams. And I didn't realize it was that much. I had made a butter and I just have a ridiculous tolerance. So I didn't bother weighing it out or measuring it because I'm like, it's not going to be too much for me.
Slathering it on bread.
I put it in a tea. I put like a bunch in a tea
That's
and
a
I made a
fuck
tea
ton
and
for
I
being in
drank
tea.
an entire French press full of tea. And I waited hours and hours and I'm like, I don't feel shit. So I go to bed and I wake up and it's the middle of the night and I have to pee and I don't get up in the middle. When I go to the bathroom and I see like tracers. I'm seeing tracers. And I'm like, what in the crap? I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I stand up and I black out for like for like a second. Never had that happen. And I'm like, my concern is my girlfriend's in the other room. It's like 3:00 in the morning and I'm going to wake her up because I just hit the wall and the door and as I passed out. So I'm like trying to wake up off the floor, trying to be really quiet, getting up off the floor. And I'm still feeling weird and shaky. And I hear on the other side of the door, are you okay? And I was like, oh shit, I woke her up. Like that's literally all that goes into my head at that moment. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, it all just kicked in because I actually feel it. And I'm seeing like tracers and I think I just blacked out for a second. That was like the weirdest thing.
All of a sudden on the floor.
And so she like helps me get up, gets me back in bed. I fall asleep. I get up at 7.
Because he probably shit himself.
No. I get up at
It's
7.
okay, honey.
Days like that.
Right?
That's love, man. That's true love.
That's the kind of love I want, right? When I'm like
Boy,
80 years old
Yeah,
and,
right on.
it's kind of
my
like you're gonna
wife's
need when
wiping
you're
me
80.
going, it's just a good thing I love you. Yeah.
But I woke up at 7 and I didn't feel high. I didn't feel anything like
Yeah.
because I
Metabolized
metabolized
quickly.
so
Yeah.
fast. Yeah. So it was like,
Are,
all
you, are
right,
you neurodivergent?
probably.
Oh, you're never diagnosed.
I've never been diagnosed, but all growing up, all through school and everything, everyone's like, he needs to be on meds. He needs to be on meds. He needs to be on
Yeah.
meds.
You're probably
Probably, yeah. That's your,
based on that and your metabolism.
yeah.
Pretty strong chance.
And there's a certain percentage of people that are neurodivergent who meds don't work on them. Rich is
Yep.
one of them.
Which is why I took a break.
Yeah.
From
One-
cannabis. Did
Was
you
that
try and see
awful?
if that would work better than what you were currently doing with cannabis? Is that what the journey to the other meds were for?
Yeah, I was hoping it would help with my like I can endure the physical pain.
Yeah.
You're used to it. Yeah.
good with pain. Although it does really help. Cannabis does help with pain.
Yes.
And better than
Any other prescription?
CBD.
Yeah.
I find did nothing for my pain. For me, I don't know, it's anecdotal, but anyway, my goal was to stop smoking and perhaps go to light edibles if necessary for the pain at certain points, maybe before bed or whatever, and to take ADHD meds because cannabis really, really helps with my neurodivergency in terms of focus, in terms of being able to work, in terms of executive dysfunction, in terms of tons of stuff, even dealing with social anxiety, which I have tons of. And not in a
Would you get that before fights? Like,
What was
would
that?
you get that anxiety before fights and stuff?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's probably where you feel most comfortable.
Yeah. Either teaching or at home is where I'm most comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Socializing on a regular. I'm also neurodivergent, so that doesn't help fucking one bit.
But your social anxiety isn't like
It's not fear. It's not
like an
agoraphobic, it's
actual
not like
anxiety.
it's
an
a
extreme
massive
discomfort.
discomfort, and I have to mask a lot, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And when I get home, it's like it's
You're worn out.
Deprivation tank.
I
Yeah.
need the deprivation tank. Yeah, it's like sensory overload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to retreat into my own world, and
Do you find a strain that works really well for you when you do go out and do social things?
I've found there's a few. Yeah, I don't remember their names because I don't remember things. but I always I like to try different strains all the time. So I go, and I always go by what's the strongest thing you've got in this, and what's the strongest thing you've got in that, and let's work by what I haven't tried yet at the strongest level. So I kind of work that way. So, but the ADHD meds didn't work, and I tried 3 different types at this point.
How long was that journey through your ADHD meds that you had come off cannabis for? Or were you still using cannabis in that journey, or had you?
No. I
totally-
stopped it to try the meds, and the meds did not much at all. At one point, I doubled the meds. Yes,
Damn.
just to see.
Yeah.
And then it was like, it's relatively speed. So
it had a kind of an opposite effect.
yeah,
At one point,
it just stopped.
one of them, I can't remember which one. Yeah, it just was.
Wow.
Everything stopped. It was like
But then he was crawling out of the skin
yeah. I was
too.
what
Like
the
he
fuck
was
is this
just
now?
this physical antsiness, right? And so
Oh, that's horrible.
my brain is dead, but my body is not.
It's not
right? And it was
enjoying.
just like this, like extreme.
Yeah.
It was,
But I've got friends who are like poster boys for ADHD who take meds and they swear by them, and I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck, you're lucky.
that was one of the reasons in Australia.
Yeah, that was
You're
one of the
like, yeah, I'm
reasons.
gonna give it another try because they were a lot worse without it.
Yeah. And there's many times I go off of smoking completely, especially when I travel in countries where it's illegal or,
Yeah.
or I don't want to bother the person to get it, or, sometimes it's provided, and sometimes some people will provide it because they know I do and they have connections and stuff like that. But there's a lot of times where I travel and I don't smoke at all for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Wow. Well, if you're ever in
Second
Utah, let us know.
Well, yeah, definitely. No, it's funny as hell, dude. Back in the day, I was trying to get a bunch of people together to get you to come out to Utah. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, watch his stuff, man. This is so dynamic. And they're like, yeah, he says fuck a lot. I'm like, yeah, so who fucking cares? And they go, I don't know if we can get enough people together. And I'm like, that's the brilliance of it. It's fucking raw. Let's do this. Because I used to train with a lot of hardcore guys where our ideas of pads were the concrete and no cup. Like, it was like, are we going to be able to use this? And then I went to the Navy and I came back, and it was like that martial arts around where I was at got castrated, and everybody's like putting pads on, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is kind of neat. I mean, are we playing pretend? Like, because I remember going, full speed, full force, something that you had always preached on that. But anyways, I'm getting off on a topic. Pamela, you said you support it. Are you a cannabis consumer as well?
I'm not anymore. I have stopped using it because it ended up, I have general anxiety disorder and CPTSD. And it started doing the opposite for me.
Yeah.
where it was actually triggering anxiety at points. It didn't seem to matter the strain. And combined with that, if I did find a good strain, I found that I was maybe becoming a bit too dependent on it, right? And it ended up affecting everything else in my life. So for me personally, I just decided, you know what, I'm not having a positive experience with it anymore. So that break happened, but I smoked for many, many, many years. And there was a time when the anxiety first started with me, that it helped tremendously. And that was kind of my go-to. My first introduction to it, I would be as a teenager. So, I started it much earlier than Rich. I was probably in grade 12 with friends. And I ended up, rather than going the alcohol route many times, I would smoke instead of drinking. And then I found that, I'm not waking up hungover. The rest of my friends are, hugging a bowl at the end of the night or first thing in the morning, and I'm not. I'm stuffing my face with cheeseburgers and pizza instead, right? So it was a bit more of a positive experience, and
way less bad decisions made.
Yes, definitely. So, and then it was just kind of, more of a recreational use, but it was, I made better choices. I was more, not that when I drank, I never blacked out, and I always, had kept my wits about me. My parents kind of drilled that in me from a young age. If you're gonna party and you're gonna drink, like be careful, watch yourself. People take advantage, all that stuff, right? So, but I found with cannabis, that never happened. It wasn't even in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it was kind of off and on for years. I lived in Vancouver, BC for many years, where it's, it's a big British Columbia culture is cannabis. It was always a great experience, lots of great memories. And, when I got older, like I said, I kind of started partaking again for mental health support. It helped with anxiety and depression, and it did help me sleep for sure. And I was living in a situation that was not good. It was an abusive relationship, and it made dealing with that situation and a lot of other stuff going on just easier to manage. And then, outside of that, getting through the trauma of that whole experience, along with a bunch of other stuff that went on, cannabis was a huge help for that. It just helped regulate my nervous system. I have other tools that helped with that for sure, but there are times where, the breath work and the yoga isn't doing it. It's not, it's not helping in this moment. So I need something else, and it definitely would help for that. But like I said, something shifted in me. I don't know if it's chemicals in my brain or what it was that happened, but it started to I started experiencing not such a good. But that's just me, and that doesn't mean it's cannabis, right? It could, definitely be something within me where my body is rejecting it, which is unfortunate, because I like I said, I'm a supporter. I absolutely, not just cannabis, but I think psychedelics and microdosing and the science behind it. I know countless people who it has changed their lives for the better. It's helped them with pain management and PTSD and all kinds of things. It's made a huge difference in their lives. And I know from being with Rich for the last, 7.5, 8 years, how much it helps them on, especially the pain level, right?
Do you microdose for pain?
Was the what?
Do you microdose for pain?
Oh, I didn't microdose properly. I figured that out like a year, something and a half later.
It's like microdose, and
then there's Rich's microdoses.
Yeah.
Definition of microdosing.
So I'm walking outside, and everything is like crystal clear, 3-dimensional.
Rough, beautiful walk, and I'm talking. All of a sudden, he's not beside me anymore. I'm looking, and he's behind me going.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, come on, keep walking.
Like, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
But I did it wrong.
That's a macrodose.
Yeah.
And every day he was doing it.
Yeah,
supposed
to do it.
No.
take a break every X amount of time. I was microdosing
Every day.
Microdosing every day.
Macrodosing, yeah. That's awesome. Nobody ever says that one. Like, hey, have you ever macrodosed? And they go, what?
See, I'm usually like a tenth of a gram, and if I do it on like a regular, consistent basis, it's like 1 day and then 2 or 3 days off, and then 1 day and then 2 or 3 days off, and then 1 day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start that.
That's what we were told
Yeah.
recently.
But it's
like
like
see what happens.
It's like a tenth of a gram to I do 0.15 or 0.1 to like 0.15 of a gram. So it's really small usually. And so the experience is sometimes like I don't even really feel it. Other times I do. It just depends on like even the mushroom, because
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
there's such a wide difference even in mushrooms, even in like the very general variety of like the normal penis envy to like the I know. I've seen yellow umbos, netalensis.
What was that one that we
Waterfalls.
got from that guy? I mean, his shit looked like fucking petrified wood.
Yeah, yellow umbos were
I've seen
really
those,
good.
Yeah.
Oh, we did a microdose. I was crying.
And I think it's
You know what you're getting.
Yeah, I think it's important too for some people that how it's administered and if they're newbies, they've never done anything before. You need to be in a safe space and with someone who is not also high, right?
Yeah,
They're
you're
gonna
gonna go
support you, right? You need that, and like I said, I'm a supporter of it. I can share something a little bit personal. My sister passed away from a heroin overdose about 9 years ago now. A lot of trauma, a lot of unresolved, as we know now, CPTSD. When she passed away, she had been doing really well. She had been not using, she'd been clean for a long time. And the things that helped her were cannabis, helped her stay clean, get her shit together. And she had even used, what's it called? Ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, yeah, with a shaman in a safe space. And that experience was almost like it took her over a plateau, and she really started to thrive and function after that. However, sadly, something happened, an incident that caused a massive trigger in her, and she fell off that wagon, and it ended up costing her life. But I've seen it firsthand on a personal level, and she's just one of many stories of many clients I've spoken to and worked with who cannabis and microdosing these things have helped them when everything else failed, when people in their lives failed, when, quote unquote experts failed, these things actually help them, or they reach that kind of plateau in their growth and their healing, and they didn't know where to go. And this is, that kind of thing that helped reach them, get them a little bit further on their path, if you will.
Yeah.
So like I said, I may not partake now, but that doesn't mean I won't again in the future, because I do enjoy it, and I know all the benefits of it, and I'm a big supporter of it. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that it's illegal anywhere in the world with all the knowledge and research and science and evidence we have behind it. It makes no sense, especially when you consider the financial benefits on an economical
Right.
that it has, right? So
What's picking up?
How long have you guys had it decriminalized? There now.
It's legal.
It's fully legal.
It's fully legal in Canada. 5 years.
Okay.
It's
Nice.
2018, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole country is fully legal.
The DARE program, drugs are really expensive, right?
Yeah.
Because that's
Drugs are really expensive.
there used to be this awesome like T-shirt company that said DARE, and then it said drugs are really expensive.
I love it.
To make that.
Right? It was awesome. We need to put that on the store, dude. That'd be awesome.
There's old attitudes towards it, right? That it's a gateway drug, which is absolutely ridiculous. So there's no, if anything is a gateway, it's trauma to any kind of overuse, and addictions aren't just limited to drugs. First and
Or
foremost,
substances.
it's the substances at all. People get work addicted and sex addiction, you can go
Gambling.
Food.
right?
Working
Food,
out,
absolutely.
eating.
Even exercise, all that stuff, right? It comes in many forms, and it's ridiculous. But this is where like the new kind of generation, and so, people that are letting knowledge swirl around in their head a little longer and looking at facts and questioning things is why we're seeing the change and progress that we are now too. So
Yeah.
It's really hard when the knowledge and information that blows into their head has previously just blown out the other ear.
yeah.
So, you know,
It's I see a very happy, hopeful future though as time progresses because it's more
Yeah.
normalized,
Yeah.
right? I mean, people aren't like, "Oh, do you guys smell that?" Like, my wife still has that attitude. She goes, "Gosh, you kind of smell like cannabis." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And I have a son who's on the autism spectrum, and he goes, "Yeah, mom, because he smokes cannabis." And then he walks out of the room, and I'm just like,
Literal and logic.
"Yeah." He's just like,
My son as well. He's like me. He's got both.
"Really?"
Yeah, he's autistic and
Very literal.
ADHD, but he leans a lot more on the autism side.
And it's brilliant. I look at it as the evolution of the brain because it gets rid of a lot of the bullshit. Like my favorite time of hearing about my son, I was standing in the hallway. We go to the specialized autistic school that he goes to, and one of these aides tries to tell him a joke. And he just looks at her and he goes, "That's dumb." And I was like, "Nick, it's not dumb." And he goes, "No, that's dumb. I don't get it. That was a stupid joke. Don't tell it again." And walked away. And he's
Very, as a matter of fact.
Yep. He's just like,
Literal, straight to the filter.
My kid on a test was just recently asked,
This goal.
"What do you think of the character in the book, blah, 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 doing this, this, that, and the other thing?" My kid responds, "I don't really think about the character in the book."
right? Yeah. Honest
that's
answer.
awesome.
Honest
And I'm like,
answer.
"Look, he's literal." I told her, "Look, he's like,
thought he had to ask you.
I said, "Look, he's literal." I said, "Had you asked what's your opinion of the character in the
Yeah.
book, he'd give you the opinion.
Language
But you ask them,
matters.
what do you think of?"
Yeah,
He
it's
doesn't
all the
think
words.
about it.
What does it
Yeah.
ask for? It's asking me
Yeah.
for this. Well, I don't
Yeah.
think about
know?
that. So,
Yeah. Language matters.
Oh, it
It
does.
really
yeah,
doesn't-
you're the teacher. You should know better. First day here?
That makes me think of that like thing, like, grammar matters, like let's eat hungry.
Or let's eat
kids.
grandma.
Yeah, let's eat
Let's eat
kids.
grandma.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
punctuation matters.
Like, that's the funny thing, like especially a lot of these teachers in there, they get so what would be that, like, institutionalized about their
Yeah.
own system because they went in with this like great feeling of like, I can't wait to teach these kids and make them good people. I wonder who I'm going to be able to make an impression on that's going to change the future. And 3 years later, like, I fucking hate this job.
Yeah.
You guys want to be here?
Yeah.
Fuck this place, right? Everybody,
There's
I always
Irish coffee
not
every
even that.
morning.
It's not
Yeah.
even the kids' fault. It's the
No.
limitations that are placed on the teachers. The
Well, like you just said
bureaucracy.
too, right? You're taught to be in this this box, right? And you don't think outside that box. This is how it is, and that's it, right? It's like the difference between like book smarts and experience and street smarts, right? The same thing can be said in the psychology world with psychologists and therapists. Many of them are in like this old paradigm of what they were taught.
Oh, yeah.
Anything outside of it, no. Even though the research on trauma and that is still the things they're finding out, because it's just still relatively in the sense of psychology as a whole, it's still new.
Yeah.
Still new, still learning so much, but a lot of them are that old generation. They're like, nope.
And there's so much gray. There's no black and white, really. It's just a lot of gray.
The world is
Right.
gray.
It
shades
is.
of gray.
He's like a
Especially
million.
looking at
It's not just 50
behavior
shades of
and-
gray. It's like there's a million shades of gray.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Different behavior for sure, and individual, and how you see things is not how
And
someone
break
else sees
lines.
things. I mean, yep.
But there's commonalities because, like it or not, we're all human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've loved that about, being somebody coming from your background, because anybody, like, go watch his videos on YouTube, like the early ones where they're like VHS converted over to it.
So
They're fucking awesome because he's like, they're hilarious because the guys are like, you're thinking, oh yeah, some guy's, oh shit, he's messing him up for real. And then they get up and they shake hands. Like one of my favorite ones, you were doing a seminar in Australia and this guy was going on about, how his jiu-jitsu game is on point. And you're like, why aren't you submitting me? why aren't you submitting me, right? And you're just shredding him, and he's just like, but my favorite one is this dude you shredded in his like living room. You were there, and his guy had like a ponytail on, and when you shredded him, it's one of my favorite ones. I'm like, you ever heard of the shredder? And they're like, no. And I'm like, watch this video. And then you go, explain. And he goes, there's no fucking way I can explain any of what it happens to me. And so I started to implement that the best I could. And it's awesome. It was a game changer because I did like, what, dude, you inspired me to go be a bouncer just because I was like, yeah, this shit's cool, but I want to go fight too. And Rich would talk about like, he's going into a club. He's like, this is what I would do. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, because, you know, the thing is that martial arts today, it's McDojos and like, you know, it
was back then too.
Yeah, but I mean, at least some of it felt like substance. But there was pieces of it that you could use. And, you know, with where you've gone, like I'm curious because cannabis gets me super creative, especially when it comes to martial arts. Did that have an effect on the evolution of what you did with Shinshido up to now?
Did cannabis have an effect on it? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Just because it allows me to, I personally, within only the last couple of years, found out that I was also autistic, which made it the world of sense and answered billions of questions. But one of the things I found out was that the neurodivergent people in general, ADHD people, produce 42% more thoughts at rest than the average human being, than the neurotypical person. So there's 42% more thoughts to process. While autistic people process 42% of the more thoughts than the neurotypical person. And I have both. So my brain produces 42% more thoughts than the average person. Plus, my brain also tends to analyze 42% of those
more of those thoughts than.
Yeah. And and again, there's no, in some aspects, there's no filters to the brain.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
God. Yeah, I can understand why you'd use cannabis.
Many aspects.
Yeah, your brain would never have any time. Do you even sleep, bro?
Well, there you go, right?
Cannabis, he does.
With cannabis. And
that makes sense.
It only works a couple of hours, and I have to get up in the night and smoke again.
Do you use concentrates at all? Or just flower?
Just the flower, and the thing that worked. I've tried everything. I tried eating it. I've tried vaping it. I've tried the shatter. I've tried
Shatter's fine. If you could find like a live rosin, concentrate, and do that kind of like a hash, but do that in either like an e-rig or something. Those ones for me last longer than flower, because usually if I smoke flower, it lasts for like 45 minutes, maybe an hour. But if I do a really good size, it's a good size dab. Like I'm using a good amount of concentrate in that, but that will last 3.5, 4 hours. So I'm wondering if you could find one that works really well and try that maybe before bed.
And the temperatures too.
Last longer.
The temperatures are going to make a big dramatic effect as far as how you feel. Like the vaporizers, like, you know, dry herb vaporizers, you've tried those. What's your experience on that?
It's good, but it doesn't last long. I have to keep, it's like it doesn't hit as hard.
Yeah, like a vapor, like a vape pen. Like it's like candy.
Yeah.
When I had vape pen, I had the old school vape. I had the thing that filled up one of the
the volcano,
bags.
Yeah.
So I tried every one, and again, it going back, the pipe, the bang for the buck is the pipe, because it's still not cheap, even though it's all legal and stuff. It's still not cheap. So if I had to consume it to get the high that I get, or to get what I need, because it's not really high. I don't get high anymore, but I can manage my thoughts, and that's what weed does. It takes that 44% of extra thoughts and it slows them down, and it allows me to process them as opposed to.
That's my
fucking brilliant.
That I don't get high anymore, and literally, like on Saturday, I'm high as shit.
Yeah, well, that's because but that's because I mix hash with it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So extra special kick now. So when I mix hash with it at night, it knocks me out.
And that's what I wondered, because pens are not the same as a dab. So if I use a pen, it's got the plateau, and I can never get above a plateau. But if I can use a dab rig, it blasts right through that. And I can
Although,
get to the level that I want to be, and I can last for hours. And I don't feel like, because for mine, if I'm using it, it's either my thoughts or my pain that's back. And I can either not focus on work and get anything accomplished because I'm like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I can't actually get focused on. Or if I have the right amount of cannabis in me, I'm either not thinking, hey, I should take another puff because that dab will last me for hours. And so then I can just sit down and actually focus because my body's not going and my brain's not going, hey, I need some more. Hey, you should probably get some more because, pain's back, thoughts are back. You're not doing what you should be doing.
Right, right.
Yeah, the concentrates have been nice, but it takes I use an e-rig because that allows you to control the temperature like crazy. So you can have it really low so you get the really good temperature, like the terpenes.
Burn it off, yeah.
Yeah, because I have the Dr. Dabber Switch. That one's really good. The Puffco Peak Plus is really good. That one allows for a full temperature range.
they have that dry rig.
Yeah.
That
It's the same one, just without, they don't put water.
yeah.
Okay, so, but that's all. I use the Dr. Dabber Switch because for me, it'll last me all day long. When I had the Puffco, it didn't last me all day long. So I'd find that I'd have to charge it halfway through the day or something. And for me, I like to have it that I can use it and the Puffco, I couldn't charge it and use it. But if I'm sitting at my desk and I'm working, I can still charge the Dr. Dabber and use it at the same time. So I'm like, it has a bigger battery. I can also charge it. There's all these things. So I end up going with the Dr. Dabber Switch, but it's like that big of a device. It's a good sized, it's a beast. Versus the Puffco is like a nice little
you can't walk around the neighborhood with it going, what's that? And it's a pepper grinder from Oliver.
Can you guys want some pepper?
Yeah, you feel like that guy from Olive Garden. Just say win on the cheese.
Yeah.
Keeps going.
You didn't say when. I'm just gonna keep taking hits on your front porch until you tell
going,
me.
dude.
Like, I don't even know you. Why are you here?
I thought if I gave you weed, you'd go away. Yeah. No, you'll never get rid of them. That's cool. No, and I think that's awesome that you really leaned into that with autism, because autism, again, the way that I feel about it, and I'm a different part of the consumer of psychology. I'm in onto consumer psychology. You're more into the behavioral and I actually going to want to ask you guys about that one, Rich. Like, you put a lot into behavioral analysis, psychology, and a lot of trauma. Is this all based off of things that you experienced or trends that you started to see, or you found something you're like, I need to do this? I mean, I know the shredder came from just practicing on that Bob dummy.
Yeah, and also, the name shredder came from practicing on the Bob dummy, but the shredder was always in existence by virtue of being the 5 principles of physical retaliation, which is economy of motion, non-telegraphic movement, tactile sensitivity, primary and secondary target acquisition, and most appropriate legal, lawful, moral, ethical weapon to most appropriate target. So if you look at these 5 principles and you use them up close in any close quarter combat, clinch, grappling situation where there's no rules, then it looks like what people had come known as shredding. So when this kid was working on the Bob dummy, and he wasn't understanding the concepts, when it clicked in, because it looks like a shredding machine, because he kept trying to strike going back and forth, where the instructor was explaining, no, if you struck the eyes here, you can also palm and then rip into the eyes and then slam a palm strike, and then, right? So there's a process of a nonstop motion. So the kid goes, oh, like a shredder. So Mark goes, yeah, now shred the fucking thing. And it clicked for him. Now, he went back home and went on the Senshido forum back in the day. I learned the shredder at Senshido. And because we taught a lot of stuff at extreme close quarter, the 5 principles became known as the shredder, but they're not simultaneous, because you can apply the 5 principles in boxing and it's going to look nothing like shredding. Shredding is the manifestation of the 5 principles at extreme close quarter range. That's it. That's all. People confused, right? So that's why I deleted that fucking name. I cut it out.
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
Right. When you hear it. and you understand it. Yeah. So the 5 principles we always had, we still use today. The difference is my objective was always how the fuck did we get here in the first place where I had to do this, or the other? How do we get here? I wanted to know how to not just de-escalate violence, fucking outburst it. How did this happen? And how do I avoid this from happening? Can I outburst it? And I could never find that solution, which was ironic because I suffered from CPTSD. So talking about, right?
I'm ignorant, obviously. Can you guys explain what is CPTSD?
Complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I've heard PTSD. I just
sorry. PTSD is a result of a one particular blow
or incident.
CPTSD is either ongoing, so
or repetitive,
commonly childhood abuse, but even domestic violence, or multiple
instances that
traumatic incidences.
Particularly within it can be over any time frame because it's dependent on the individual. But it aside from childhood abuse and domestic violence, it's
cops.
Bouncers
who deal with a lot of violence.
First responder, really.
First responders, yeah.
Someone who grew up and maybe their home was relatively safe, but they grew up in a neighborhood that was not. You're looking at places of poverty and war. That's CPTSD. It's ongoing.
Muggings, break-ins, bullying,
multiple events.
I'm checking boxes right now because that was a lot of my drive to get into martial arts as a kid. Was I was picked on and beat up and bullied, and when I started fighting back, then the bullies got even stronger and smarter. So I wanted to be stronger and smarter. So hence why, at the time I was working at a mental hospital running the prisoner ward, and the only thing we had were our hands and a set of keys to open doors. And we would get prison guards that come there going, these guys are insane. And you guys are fighting them? And you're like, yeah. And you learned quickly, but you started to like the violence. You started to like it where that was the only thing that could really make you calm. Like I enjoyed the
it feels like home and safety.
Totally.
Because that's the thing with complex PTSD for a lot of people is that when they get out of the situation and they end up in an environment that is not chaotic, whether that's previously experienced like with you with work or home or whatever it is, a sense of calm and safety feels unsafe.
Oh yeah.
Because you're like waiting for
you're always on 10.
Right? You're like anytime,
for example,
right? Where when it's ongoing, it's like, okay, I'm in survival mode and I'm here and I'm managing and things are here and I see it. I'm not waiting for it to happen. It's happening around me and I can manage. And when you live like that for so long in survival mode, your nervous system is always activated. And then suddenly you get pulled out of that and you're not in it. It can fuck you up.
Yeah.
Feel unsafe. Right. There's
a lot of people self-sabotage many relationships. You'll hear a lot of men say, women don't like nice guys. They only date assholes. There's a reason for that. Same with males who self-sabotage relationships, who can't handle commitment, who will jump from this, that, to that, to that. There's reasons for that. There's psychological, behavioral reasons for that. That's not a character trait. That's a trauma trait. People sometimes, a lot of times, and too often times, confuse character traits with coping mechanisms. That's not who you are. That's a coping mechanism, not a character trait. And so, and there's a big difference. And understanding this is where Pam came in, where we met through, she was taking a self-defense course through, we met way earlier through it was self-defense related. Anyway, long story short, we met through self-defense, and when she came over and we started working together, she told me she was trauma-informed certified yoga teacher. I'm like, what's that? She started explaining it to me, and as she started explaining to me, it's like light bulb moment after light bulb moment after light bulb moment. I was like, holy fuck, you just brought the missing piece to literally the self-defense industry and world. There's nobody who's talking about this. There's a lot of people who come out and go, I was talking about this since 1972. Bitch, it didn't exist in 1972. Shut up.
Well, Dad,
But nobody fucking talked about it. Nobody
know
knows shit, talk fucking squat, nothing. And if you did, you didn't write about it. There's no book about it. There's nothing about you mentioning it in any magazine, nothing, because I would have read about it and it would have hit me then the way it's hit me now, because I've been always looking for this and nobody was talking about it and I fucking have it. So,
and anyone who was talking about it was more in the sense of
they have it.
Soldiers.
Or soldiers, yeah.
They were a police officer that was diagnosed with PTSD, or a soldier that, and that's trauma. But
that's not at all what we're talking about.
Their experience with violence is very much different than a woman's experience with violence.
Than a child's experience, or elderly, or
right?
Yeah, no, I mean,
the average civilian on a daily basis. And so when I introduced that, I went, oh, fuck, that, tell me more. We need to bring this to the public.
Yeah. How long have you been incorporating that now?
7-8 years now. 7.5 years.
Instantaneous.
Tremendously in 7.
Oh, yeah.
Years. Because I mean, the amount of information to research and study is insane. And how it relates and ties into, as Pam always says, trauma is the core root of violence, and violence causes trauma.
Like a snake eating itself.
Yeah.
There's a term for it, Ouroboros. I always forget how to pronounce it, the name of it, but it's an actual symbol of a snake eating its own tail. And that's how I view trauma and violence. Violence causes trauma, and trauma causes violence. When you have unresolved trauma and you haven't dealt with misdirected anger, people either hurt themselves or hurt others, or both.
Yeah.
And it's right. You look at, even on a, quote unquote lower level of violence, which is not, it's not predatory, but let's look at like fights or road rage that escalates into a physical fight.
Social violence.
This isn't predatory. This isn't a sociopath or, someone targeting someone for the purpose of
victimization.
Hurting. It's people getting into stupid fights over petty, stupid shit, road rage, whatever it is. But who reacts that way? Like,
Utah enacted a law.
Balanced people don't get into fights and kill each other over parking spots. But they do.
Yeah.
Right. And so that person, where's that coming from?
That's emotional dysregulation.
Emotional dysregulation and misdirected anger. Why is what's it really coming from? It's unresolved trauma.
Yeah, it's interesting. Utah has a law they pushed for recently for road rage, because it was like, hey, you can actually go to jail now if you are really aggressive, if you try and start a fight or something, because there's just been so many issues, I guess, here in Utah with it. And it's like, but again, like you said, it's how much trauma is it that is not resolved, that we're all just...
And what people don't realize about road rage is, one, the person you're raging against, more or less 90% of the time, they can't hear you.
Nope.
You know who can hear you? The people who are in the car with you.
Yeah.
Who? Your family, your friends, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your wife, your daughter, your son.
Yep.
They're a fucking nightmare.
They're eating shit.
They're eating shit for years or decades. Yeah. You're born into this, so you're creating victims, literally. Now, your child and whoever's in the car with you, after years or decades of this shit, are going to suffer from anxiety disorder, stress. Any individual who represents an abrasive, aggressive, intimidating male, they're going to cow down to. This child is going to cow down to every bully, to every person who represents his father, who every time somebody drove by or cut him off, because that's what he's learning. And the kid, every time there's got to be a road trip, what's the first thing on that kid and that wife's mind before, I hope nobody fucking my doesn't chase someone, doesn't go here. These are the people who are suffering. These are the real victims.
And you're living on eggshells.
And you're living on eggshells.
If you have road rage, you probably have home rage.
You're punching walls, you're kicking doors, you're slamming fridge doors, you're hitting your computer
across the room.
I was that guy.
Yeah,
I know. I fucking did it. And the second I saw it in my kid's eyes, he was 4 years old. I went, this is stopped. It's done. And I stopped. Dead fucking on. I did it with her too. That's enough. I'm not putting my family through this. This is where it ends. And so at the end of the day, you're either creating victims or you're creating criminals that way. And that's trauma. And that's what who's doing. It doesn't mean to be yelling at, they're not taking it out on their family, but their family is the one that
Is eating.
is eating it. So you're inadvertently bleeding all over the people you love by doing
You
this.
can refer to it as what we refer to as the unintentional emotional abuse, right? There's
Yep.
intentional abuse.
And there's
The person is abusing on purpose to victimize, but then there's, misdirected anger, like what we just spoke about, and that is, it's abusive behavior. It's not on purpose, and you're not doing it to hurt, but you're bleeding all over it.
And you are hurting.
And it's messing up kids and your spouse. It's messing them up.
Whoever is in the car, they're the ones suffering.
Yeah.
And if you've heard this and you do this and you don't effectively go out and change it, then now that makes you an abuser on purpose. You're now a fucking asshole.
The mirror is in front of you. What are you going to do?
Motherfucker, what are you going to do? Because that's the reality of what it is.
No.
So you're either going to continue making the people who are with you suffer, and your apologies, they don't mean shit.
The
I'm
best
really
apology-
sorry, it's not you, I need to vent. Well, don't fucking vent in front of me, asshole. Go vent on a boxing bag in some gym.
We're not saying don't express anger and bottle it up. That's not good either. But learn to properly handle these emotions and process them
In a
effectively,
healthy
in
manner.
a healthy, manageable way that you are not hurting yourself and other people, right? Because you're bleeding. The best apology is change behavior. Otherwise, it's just words. Change your behavior.
Yeah, both of us grew up with a father that was like that in many ways. Different. I grew up.
Same but different.
Yeah, I mean, my father was an immigrant, and the way that he was taught was, I mean, his culture and his time period, they didn't tell their kids they loved them all the time. How could they? They were just all consumed with,
Cold.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so now, like, it was difficult for me. Like what you were talking about, I had those experiences where I would start becoming physically violent with my boys because that's the way that it was with me, not realizing that this is just trauma trapped in there. A trigger went off and it went into this cycle. And now my family, even now, I mean, now, cannabis came in my life, like Brandon brought it into my life, probably trying to tell me to chill the fuck out. And I did. And I stopped seeing things the way that
You were taught.
yeah. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And recently I made a massive change in my life. I found this system called 12 Shapes. I'll send it to you guys. It's a behavioral analysis. It's not a personality test. And it was so spot on in showing me when I'm doing good, this is how I am. When I'm not in a good place, this is what I do. Cool. And it just called me out. And what you were talking about, it's that way. It's like, yeah, you're a fucking asshole if you keep doing it because you know you're doing it because you know it's bad, but it doesn't mean that's your label. You can change that now.
You can change, yeah,
right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I still have to live with it. I have given my family that unintentional emotional trauma where if I raise my voice just to kind of like get the attention, my two youngest kids start crying immediately.
Especially if one of them's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I've
he has emotional dysregulation, and he's hypersensitive as well. Then.
Yeah, and his thing is he loves to be able to get a rise out of people. I call him Dr. Spock, and he's just like, yeah, I would just kick their ass. I would just kill them. I'm like, why would you kill them? I don't know, because they bother me. So you're like Dexter, you know that? Yeah. And he's obsessed with the emotion. He wants to understand it so deeply. Why are they feeling these things? And I literally have to teach him, like Dexter Morgan was being taught by his dad, but I don't teach him how to kill people. But I'm like,
wait, hold on a second, because I need to differentiate something. Something's bothering me about what you're saying.
Go.
You have the autism and psychopathy are not the same.
Oh no.
Okay. Because generally speaking, people who are autistic are very emotional, hyper. Almost.
Oh no, he is. He is.
Okay,
He's very emotional.
Dexter has no. Dexter.
No.
Okay.
He just trying to be able to teach him because he doesn't get nuances. He doesn't get euphemisms.
No.
Yeah, and he gets really frustrated that he can't get that. So I break it down to him really small. I'm like, this is what they're doing. And he's obsessed with acting now. And I'm like, of course you are. Because now you can become somebody.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah. And he loves that. And so it's just like, for him now, he's like, Yeah, it's a great thing. And I was like, he's like, I want to learn how to be able to understand them, Dad. I'm like, not a problem. I mean, communication is a huge part of my life. So I'm like, yeah, let's go into this and let's slowly go through it. And I give him
Acting's an outlet for that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You, yeah, for sure.
And he has thrived with it. You know,
Yeah.
we luckily have him in a school where they can understand him and go at his pace and not try to just push him through.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah. Not just, yeah.
It's so hard. But
Yeah.
no,
Is
exactly.
schools
No,
up
and
there very
psychopathy.
similar?
What's that?
Are schools in Canada very similar? Do you know?
Wait, there are specialty schools for people, right? For kids that need, extra attention and support. But this, like, Rich's son goes to normal public school, but the teachers are much more informed and even educated and have degrees on that are like child psychology, where they understand
cool.
we
Well,
we
that would be
often
cool.
Yeah.
we often teach in high schools, and one of the last ones we were at, there was about, I think it was last year before, the one teacher had about 6 boys in one class particular that all had ADHD, and she had like fidget, like
For stickies.
for them to work with so that they'd be able to pay attention. So you see that more like my generation and Rich's generation.
Oh, they didn't understand.
They didn't have that. You were, you
I was
didn't
the
pay
trouble kid.
attention.
I was the kid
Yeah.
who didn't shut up,
Right? There was no under
who didn't sit still,
about it, so
question too much.
Yeah, I was the kid in my elementary school who apparently my older brother had been a trouble that he had introduced. So they gave you this card turning system in 3rd grade. You started off with a green card and you turned it to yellow, orange, red, blue, or purple, blue, and blue, purple, black. And, every time you were out of line or loud or whatever, you'd have to turn your card. And my older brother was the first one ever to get like a double black.
wow. Yeah.
And I came in and I got a triple black. Yeah.
And you probably, knowing like this time, how people think, and because you were his brother, if they knew that you were his brother, probably like, we're going to have the same problems right away.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that kind of expectation and jumping and not recognizing that, hey, maybe there's something else going on here.
But the thing was, so my mom started teaching me long before I started school. So when I was in 2nd grade, I read Gone with the Wind for my book report. That's what I did my book report on in 2nd grade. Like, I was ahead of so I got bored. I got really bored. And then, so my teacher was like, well, you get triple blacks. You've gotten more than one, because I had gotten more than one triple black. And she was like, so if you can be good for an entire week and not turn your card once, I will stop drinking Coke. Because she would drink a Coke every single day. Or multiple Cokes. And so I had gone, it was Friday, I had gone almost the entire week without turning my card once. And then she made me turn my card once for some stupid thing just so she didn't have to give up her Coke.
You don't have to give up Coke. Yeah.
But I had gone that entire fucking week for a kid who was like, like for a kid who struggled, not like, hey, sit still, do this. Like, I went the entire week doing that shit.
That's to a kid too, hey? Like how just,
and I was like,
disheartening. But yeah, that's crap.
Yeah.
And
she just didn't think I could do it.
Yeah, I watched this.
She died. She died. Actually, like a handful of years ago, she passed away. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
wow.
but it's.
But there's something to be said about, this kind of comes back around and what you were saying earlier is, the cycle breakers. You recognize that your father raised you a certain way, and our parents can only do as well as they know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's such a wealth of information now, and that information that's valid, and it has the evidence to support it. There's a lot of false stuff too, for sure. But that there's a lot to be said about the cycle breakers. Both my parents are cycle breakers. Rich is a cycle breaker. Yeah, big time, right? And this matters. This is how we make our world a better place: is breaking cycles, is taking a look at ourselves in the mirror, and our family dynamics and coping mechanisms and all that stuff, and raising our kids and just changing ourselves, not just our children, right? Like we go out and about in the world and we interact with other people in the world. And, you know, when we talk about social violence and people get in fights over stupid things, if someone gets in your face about something, you have the opportunity to not bark back and start a fight, but actually maybe shine a light on that person and actually treat them like a human being and de-escalate them and make them pause and go when they come back down from that dysregulation and go, holy shit, I was an asshole over a parking spot.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I'm such a dick. Maybe, you know, then most of the time that's what's gonna you'll even get an apology from the person.
Because predators don't come at you like that.
No.
The lowest form of predator, the dumbest motherfucker, is the bully.
Yeah.
Is the person who lets themselves.
They're right in your face telling you who they are.
They are. Hey man, they're getting right in your face.
That's right.
Now, some people are emotionally dysregulated, and they're going to come across that way right off the bat. So we need to figure out what's the difference between a good person having a bad day and a predator.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Like in a nutshell, this is not the fucking course, but in a nutshell, the simple question of, hey man, how can I help you? What do you need? What did I do to piss you off? Is going to tell you right away what kind of person you're dealing with. The emotionally dysregulated person will start to emotionally regulate.
They'll tell you what, and I'll tell you what it is.
And they're going to tell you what their issue is, because a good person having a bad day has an issue they want resolved that they think you completely ignored. You spilt their drink, took their parking spot, looked at somebody the wrong way, bumped them, and didn't say sorry, cut them off, whatever. There's something, they have an issue. The bad guy has no issue. The predator is just
they're looking for that. Yeah.
I'm victimizing you.
You gave them the opportunity. And they're trying to bank on it. Well, you're beyond help now. You can't help me. They're not going to tell you what their problem is.
Because they don't have a problem.
They're going to
deflect and keep intimidating. Right there and then you'll know. And that's the easiest form of violence that any human being can defend against. The easiest form. Because it's not an ambush.
Yeah.
You didn't see it coming. And you were not manipulated or coerced into it. He's a fucking moron. He's right in your face telling you who he is. The real predators don't act like that. The real dangerous predators
are the people in your
90% of the time, the victim knows who it is. Roughly 35% of the time, it's an immediate family member. The rest of the time, it's anything from an acquaintance to a best friend to somebody you dated to a distant family member to a coach, clergy, the guy who fucking washes your car every week. Whatever it is, you know who they are 90% of the time.
The most dangerous place for women, for example, is the home. Second is work.
Third is transient, to and from work.
Is in between. It's coworkers and someone they're dating. These are, or another immediate family member. These are the people that victimize women. These are also the people that victimize children the most. Men get victimized too, absolutely. They sure do, but most victimization, or most men that succumb and die in violent situations, it's the social violence. 65% of men that die in violent confrontations
die in social violence.
Are
it's
fights.
Street fights.
It's not predators. This isn't a serial killer.
It's the road rage incidents, bar fights, fights over a spilled drink, a parking spot, somebody looking at somebody's significant other the wrong way.
Stupid
it's
shit.
all
ego shit.
And over 77% of it, alcohol is usually involved. And that's social violence. And that's where 65 to 66% roughly of males worldwide die. They're killing each other. They're not killing bad guys. They're not heroes. They're fucking stupid they're cavemen is what they are. That's not, you got two 40-year-old men kill each other.
Exactly.
One guy kills the other guy in a parking lot and they're both in front of their family.
Got us video.
Yeah. Right.
Over a parking spot. He didn't even mean to kill him. He's just an oaf who watched too much WWE. Oh, I'm gonna suplex you now. Alpha male. Oh, fucking snap the guy's neck in the parking lot in front of his wife and kid. He's doing 7 to 12 years involuntary manslaughter. That's not self-defense. But you see, this is what 99% of self-defense courses teach their students to defend against: social violence incidences. They don't teach people have de-escalation or behavioral red flags, green flags, understanding self-awareness, behavioral awareness, situational.
They literally teach that de-escalation fails. and it's for quote unquote pussies. It's for the weak.
And those that do try to teach de-escalation, most of the time it looks like back off, stay back.
Yeah.
Don't come any closer. I don't want any trouble.
My brother-in-law works for the prison system here, and the amount of time and money that they spent on de-escalation within the police force versus going to the gun range and shooting every week is they spent 1 hour in their training at the beginning working on de-escalation. There's been nothing else since then. And yet they go spend hours learning how to shoot.
Yeah.
Every
What's
week.
Wrong with this picture? Yeah.
So you're trying to work on how to kill someone, but you're not actually working on de-escalating the issue. Well, that's the issue right there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then are you emotionally regulated when you're going into that situation?
Exactly.
Or are you not able to do that, so then you get escalated? And then you've got a weapon attached to you as well.
Yeah.
And a badge that gives you authority now.
And because you have that badge and you have that authority, that means that you're probably off scot-free no matter what happens, even if you did escalate that situation and it wasn't called for because you have that badge and that's
But that's not a hatred against them. It's it's a process. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to invest more in going, hey, can they emotionally regulate themselves? Okay, cool. Can they emotionally regulate or de-escalate a situation effectively?
Well, and the other side too, though, men have been taught through, media, sports, etc., that being violent is actually okay. This is good. This is good that we do this. I used to be. Yeah, it is. UFC is pop culture now.
It's good to be a man.
And they're not thinking about, they'll be training kids really young now. You see fighters today, they're straight up murderers. These guys left out there. And like you said, I was glad you brought that up, good guy having a bad day. Because that's the way I think about it too. My wife even said that many times where we've had something happen near us. And she's like, why don't you just go over and do what you used to do? And I'm like, because I don't know what's going on with that guy. You
don't know the situation. You don't know who they are. You don't know where they're connected. Do they have a weapon? You don't know what is happening, right? You can be a bystander without putting yourself in harm's way.
Oh, yeah.
Cause a distraction. Call the police. There's many options. You can fake a medical emergency in front of the situation and get the right. There's lots of options. You don't have to put yourself in harm's way to be a good bystander.
Exactly. And it's de-escalating that situation. I was making me laugh because I was driving home one day. I was having a conversation with him, and there was this turn where you could pull into this business park, and the traffic, I was like, oh, I can keep going. I won't block that. And I ended up blocking it. And the car that was right there, I'm on the phone with him, and this guy rolls down his window. He's like, hey, you fucking idiot. What the fuck you doing? You just blocked it over there. I said, yeah, I saw it over there. I fucked up, man. I'm a dickhead. I'm sorry. And the guy goes, okay. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. And he goes, no, I'm sorry. And then rolls up his window.
Yeah, he was expecting you to, well, who'd you fucking talk to me? They're right?
And that could have easily escalated into a fight, no problem.
Yeah,
100%.
The opposite way. Yeah.
9 out of 10 times, if not 98%, I would say, if not 99% of stranger-based violence,
that's like this,
is social violence. 99% of that can be de-escalated. Because again, the predator doesn't really function that way.
No.
They don't work in that manner. And if people understood predatory behavior, they'd be much quicker to understand and recognize this, that what we're dealing with in your average civilian situation is with emotionally dysregulated people. And the second you treat people like people, they become people, oddly enough. I read that in a book. I can't remember where or which one. I'll give it credit, but And it's true, and I practice that, and it's damn true. 100%. Now, predatorial behavior, if it's going to come at you, it's going to come at you 90% of the time. If it's physical, if it's a physical violence situation, you're not going to see it coming. It's going to be a surprise attack. It's going to occur mostly when you're either in your sleep or your back is turned, and you're not expecting it at all because it's coming from somebody you know, and somebody who's groomed or love bombed you or built some form of trust or some form of something that in a million years, if you ran through your, like Pam says, your Rolodex of people as to who on earth would want to cause you harm, that person would not pop up. Well, would
And
not
if
pop
they
in.
did, you would dismiss it.
You would dismiss it.
Right?
at
The
their
red
name.
flags you dismiss. Why? Oh, they're having a bad day. Oh, it's just because of their childhood, or it's this reason or that reason. No, pay attention to the red flags.
In the United States,
and note them.
I think it's even worldwide, but in the United States particularly, the number one cause of death for pregnant women is being shot, is homicide. And 97% of the time, it's by the person who impregnated her.
It's the father of the child.
So
That's horrible.
yeah, and just to give you an idea.
In the United States, the second a woman becomes pregnant, her risk of homicide elevates significantly.
Yep.
The risk of violence is automatically.
Yeah.
That's like, let's just take a moment to think about how messed up.
Now think
that
about
is.
self-defense courses
Right.
and think about self-defense courses and martial arts courses that teach knife defense or knife, whatever. I'm going to teach you how to kill somebody who's trying to kill you with a knife. There's tons. The odds of being stabbed by a complete random stranger worldwide is less than 1% for starters. The odds of you seeing the knife, if somebody's going to stab you with it, are less than 3%. So
Yeah.
the odds of you being awake when somebody's going to use the knife on you are less than 50%. The odds of, right? So the reality is they're teaching something that's probably never going to happen to anybody that they're teaching it to.
It's a John Wick fantasy.
I just posted a video of an IDF. This is a trained IDF soldier. He's in full uniform. He's armed. A civilian walks into the same cafe that he's in, and he gets behind him and stabs him in the neck with a knife and lands and succeeds. But the first blow won't kill you right away. So, of course, the IDF soldier starts to react, but he's fucking panicking because he realizes somebody's trying to kill him with a knife and he hasn't drawn his weapon yet. And it takes him a few seconds to draw his weapon, enough times to get stabbed a couple of more times. Finally, he draws it, but his gun jams. Other people start getting involved. Fucking shit breaks out. He manages finally to shoot the guy, and then he succumbs to his injuries. He dies too. But you think the average civilian is going to go take some fucking Krav Maga course or combatives or MMA course or straight blast gym, Jeet Kune Do, whatever the fucking system is, in one weekend or 3 times a week in some strip mall and fucking learn to be John Wick. Oh, you're going to defeat people? They're fucking dreaming. First of all, the odds are insane of it ever happening, let alone, right? So let's just scrap all that. But the odds are that happening are less than 1% of you a random stranger. But every 5 days in the United States, every 5 days, every 8 days worldwide, roughly speaking, a man murders his entire family and then kills himself. They're called family annihilators. This happens every fucking 5 to 8 days.
It's a weekly basis worldwide.
Literally speaking. Do you see any self-defense courses teaching anything about that?
No.
Fuck
What do you do in that situation?
Cool.
No.
Yeah.
That's not going to make you look like that tough guy. The fucking.
What do you do when your dad
Bourne?
snaps and tries to kill your family? Ha!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? No, they're
Oh
answering.
my
Go to the
God.
shooting range and learn how to shoot. You're
Yeah.
going to shoot your dad who stuck into the middle of the night while you were sleeping?
And
No.
took a 12
He
gauge
stuck
to
into the
all of your
middle
family.
Yeah.
How do you?
Yeah.
Drugged
No.
you before he fucking shot you too.
But there
People have no idea what they're talking
This
about.
is why we're so heavy in prevention, is because there's behavioral red flags galore. Like
Yes.
this doesn't just
Okay.
happen out of nowhere. And
Like
when
every
it
single situation.
when it does happen seemingly out of nowhere, there's usually a psychotic break involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is far less common than
That's even less than
predator,
0.5%.
So it's the self-defense industry
Is still working from 1990 perspective of what's
it is extremely
reality-based street
it's so
fighting.
frustrating, because it's like get a clue already. Like the information that we share and we teach is we research it. It's out there. Everyone else can find it too. And but they're selling fantasy, and they're selling garbage, and they're selling lies.
They're
And
modifying reality
to fit their system.
to fit what they teach and their
And-
techniques and their
it's
cool moves.
it's irresponsible. It's absolutely irresponsible.
I will agree with that. Definitely. It's the fear that they think that people that have a weapon are just going to run around shooting people. Well, if you propagate that ideology, yes, it will happen. And it's the same within the martial arts community. I completely agree with that because it's just teaching violence. It's just
Yes.
teaching a fancier violence, a more readily available violence, I would say,
Mhm.
because now you have muscle memory and you're
Yeah.
conditioned to do this over and over and
We're
over.
stuck in
So
physical,
right.
physical.
Yeah.
When the reality is most antisocial predatorial violence comes in the form of the surprise attack, the ambush, where it's not front and you're not going to see it coming, and
It's like
only chance you're going to have is if it failed, and now you got to react.
there's not a single episode of Forensic Files, and there are countless episodes of that fucking show. It's unbelievable. They even started a new
Again,
after the guy died. And these are murders from all over the world.
Yeah.
95% of these shows are about murders and homicides and the like.
Most of them are in ambush. They were asleep.
There's not a single show I saw,
over time.
not a single show that we saw that we looked at it that we went, oh, BJJ would have helped that person or Krav Maga. There's not a single martial art or self-defense course or system that we've seen today.
Yeah.
But there's a handful that touch upon here and there, and but that would have helped the vast majority
on a physical
level, any of those victims.
But an education, and we view it as a life skill. That this is a life skill because 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted or abused in their lifetime. 1 in 6 males are sexually abused or assaulted in their lifetime. These are statistical facts. It should be taught as a life skill, violence prevention, recognizing behavioral red flags, trauma education, what to do when something like this potentially you're catching is what. Now, how do I see it? I see the red flags. What do I do now? How do I handle this situation? And also looking for green flags. This is where numbers will change, not buck and roll and roundhouse kicks, and stuff's not going to help people.
And then,
but recognizing red flags and preventing it and avoiding it, and social programs to help, support families that are, trying to get out of domestic violence situations. These are where things will change.
And understanding self-awareness, understanding intuition beyond paying lip service to it. Mm-hmm. So people don't even realize that there are some people who aren't in touch with or can't connect to their own intuition. Then you have some people who are stuck in a certain mode of disassociation, disorder, or dissociate, whatever, PTSD freeze mode, that don't reflexively respond. They don't flinch. So your entire system that's based on flinching, certain people aren't going to be able to do it without the recognition as to why they're not flinching. And if that's never brought up in turn, they're just going to think that they suck, that they're not worthy. They're going to take your course and go, well, I can't do that. And they're going to leave and not understand fuck all about anything. It's the same thing with people who don't trust their intuition because they went through years and years and years of emotional and psychological abuse, specifically in the form of gaslighting that took and tore away at who they are and their confidence, that they no longer trust themselves. Telling them, oh, trust your intuition is not enough.
And then there's some people who, and it's very common, are caught in please and appease, or what's commonly referred to as fawn,
and that's the coping mechanism.
Where the fear of offending is greater than the fear of I could
die or getting raped.
My life could be right because they've had to be in survival mode for so long to keep the abuser or racial trauma relating to racism, for example, where there's that please and appease to protect ourselves so we don't get lashed out at, with racist rants or hate expression, whatever it is, or domestic violence. So we please and appease. Why? To protect myself. But now I'm not in that situation now. I'm in a safer situation, but I don't know when I see red flags come up, I'm going to instantly, someone makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to keep it to myself, or I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to dismiss it because that's all I know how. That's all I know. I'm scared to offend them. And this is what can lead to, unfortunately and sadly, someone becoming victimized again. So we need education around this stuff.
Do you guys have a course that you guys are working on or that you guys have built out?
Yeah, we actually have a course, live online course, a 3-day course that is coming up October 18th, 19th, and 20th. It's one of many immersive courses we're releasing. So this one coming up at the late October is on intuition, behavioral red flags, self-awareness, situational, and environmental awareness, and how they all kind of lump in together. And it's not paying lip service to these things. We actually deep dive and give exercises and kind of things to take home that you can do to build these things with yourself and your students if someone who's teaching, right? But it's not just for teachers, it's for anyone that wants to kind of have a greater sense of personal safety and an evolution. So we kind of view it.
For a more hands-on approach, we have a master class, which is a 4-day trauma-informed violence prevention and life skills for personal safety masterclass. And that's 4 days, 8 hours a day. It's a lot more intense. There's nothing physical start.
But we do drills, but they're not physical drills.
But they are
communication and de-escalation.
Body language.
Which people refer to that as soft skills, but honestly, they should be called hard skills. They are the hardest to actually get your adrenaline going in a conflict and really you're really acting out scenarios, now, having to feel all of that stuff. So
the first time we ran the first one, I was especially super nervous because it's 4 days. It's 8 hours a day, right? You got breaks, of course. It's not like you right. Although not the first one. The first one, I made them sit for 8 hours a day.
No, breaks, kill me. No breaks. I mean,
we need breaks.
Breaks.
Two people have shit themselves. We have to have breaks.
We provided we fully catered it, right? But and it's like I said, it's a very deep, intensive course, and we weren't sure how people were going to take it, or even how many people were going to show up, because it's not a cheap course either. It rates 4 days, 8 hours a day of our time, plus we fully cater it. So but we had people, man, from all over the world.
Ireland, Ecuador, Czech Republic,
the US. We have people come from all over the world take this course, man. One brother mortgaged his house to come down here and take
another sold his car.
And most aren't like martial artists and fighters. We had lawyers. We had a guy who works nonprofit with human trafficking in Ecuador. We had a kid who was taking his child psychology to master's degree. We had all kinds of really all walks of life. Of course, there are people who, of course, also do martial arts and self-defense stuff. But
we have that course again coming up the end of May, the very last weekend of May, beginning of June. I think it's 31st to the 2nd in Montreal.
Yeah. Do you guys do that once a year?
No,
we do it throughout the year. It's just we travel the world doing it. It depends who brings us over and hosts us and helps us fill these seats.
We've done it in Australia several times.
3 times now in Australia.
3 times in Australia. We've done it in the UK
3 times.
3 times. We've done it in Germany twice.
Montreal, Ottawa, Victoria, BC, Canada. We've been all over.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really like 99% of the people who've taken it have said that if anybody's teaching self-defense and they haven't taken this course, they shouldn't be.
Yeah, we've had people take it again. We have one woman,
we took it 4 times.
Mary Stevens in the UK, who's taken it 4 times. The 4th time it was
she hosted it.
3rd time actually. She was the host and actually brought us and hosted it. So.
Sounds like she's gained immense value from it then.
And she works for
Fair Fight organization.
That teaches women empowerment and self-defense in India
and Zimbabwe. So
she brings a lot of materials.
Stuff. Good person.
That's amazing.
We've had a former SAS soldier. We've had
all walks of life.
Take this course.
It's interesting. You get such a diverse group together.
Not for nothing.
And you see the commonalities and how everything, regardless of their backgrounds and their experiences, there's a link, no matter who.
I've been doing this, as you know, a long time.
Yeah.
On a professional level since '94. I've met many and worked with many of the big names out there, communicated with countless of them. Like the big names in our industry, people who made the magazine covers and they got hundreds of thousands of followers. There's nobody who's teaching a course as comprehensive or in-depth or based on statistical facts, evidence, and forensic science, if you want, criminology, Because this isn't, we're not, this isn't a style. This isn't a system that we teach. We don't have a brand to sell. There's no name to what we teach. It's violence prevention, personal safety, life skills in terms of defense tactics, but it's not a brand. There's no logo. We don't have a tribe or a brotherhood or a gang or a team. There's no,
I like the gang part.
Certifications.
Gang of no violence.
Because you know what?
Yeah, no,
I've been there. I did that, man. I did all of that shit. I was
Oh, yeah, you did.
People fucking knock them out, kill them all, let God sort them out, to build the Sanchito Mafia shit we used to have.
Uh-huh.
I was young, I get it, but I'm 55, and there's something called evolution and facts and evidence and
Personal
statistics
growth.
and
Yeah.
personal growth. And I was always
reality.
and even then I was into that because I even back then that shit that didn't work I deleted as early as
Yeah.
1997.
Literally in
In the middle of a workshop.
they were doing something, and one of your teachers, I think it was
No, one of the participants.
they were
was
double jointed. I'm double jointed too. So this
Stitching a particular
drill.
submission that doesn't work on double jointed
it
people.
didn't work. So that he was like, scrap it. We're not teaching it anymore.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
deleting
just like
that entirely.
Just in the middle of a drill, gonna delete it. And he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't work on everyone. We're not
teaching it anymore.
If
So
it's
it's
not
fucking
gonna,
scrap it.
if there's even 1% of the population where this is not going to work on, we don't teach
do it.
We don't
That's
teach
You don't know.
Yeah.
So I was always into evolution
love
and
that.
it worked, and
Brilliant.
and that hasn't changed. And so, as much as it's sometimes pains my own personal ego that, oh shit, it was used to be fun to teach rip, shred, tear, eye gouge, headbutt, elbow, slam the guy's head into the fucking bar, and to break the bottle on his head and drink a beer and put your foot on his chest and go home.
I saw all that right now in my head.
Because but I was in my 20s and 30s, and I didn't have this information. And then, yeah, it would be cool to do all that, but that's not real anymore now.
And who's that helping?
And who's that
Who's that
helping?
helping?
It's not doing anything. All it's going to do is yeah, sure, I'll probably get another 10 people through the door, but it's 10 people who are going to be paying me $50 for 5 hours. It's not going to be one person paying me $4,000 for 4 days. That's a different animal now.
Go take this
Like PhD level shit. We're not talking about, sticks and stones and your nuts and bolts. Oh, de-escalation stuff. Oh, stand back. You're not preparing somebody to hit them here. We're literally trying to figure out on a moral, legal, and ethical level what kind of human being we're dealing with before we act or react. Like I ask many martial artists, even in my master classes, self-defense experts, these fucking people teach self-defense to the general public, okay? What would you do if you're walking and somebody shoves you really hard from behind? Fuck, you take the shove, you turn around, and you see them coming at you. What do? Every single one of them has a physical response. Fucking, I'd hit them this way, I'd do that, I'd do this, I'd fucking do that. I go, really? It's 9 a.m. You just ordered a fucking coffee. You're in a hurry because you're going to miss your city bus, or your fucking friend or your wife is waiting for you outside, double parked. So you're in a hurry and you didn't notice that you just bumped a 14-month-old child who fell on their ass and started crying. And his dad got really pissed off. He called you a couple of times, but you ignored him as you kept walking. Now he fucking shoved you from behind. You're going to turn around. He's coming at you going, hey, man, you're going to fucking drop him and kick. And guess what, buddy? You're going to jail. You know for how long? That's fucking assault. Plus, you dropped this fucking kid. At the end of the day, you're the prick in this story. You're not the hero. You're not the savior.
And what if that guy, you one punch him, he dies from hitting his head?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
You just killed that guy.
After bumping his fucking kid.
Yeah.
And not saying sorry.
And
when all it would have taken is, hey, man, what's up? What do you need? Just an assessment of the fucking situation.
Assessing it and deciding from there and apologizing, right? Not everything is not a physical response. It's not always appropriate.
Now, the answer to any question as such, when it's asked, like when people go, what would you do if somebody did this, that? I go, it depends. On what? Well, am I alone? What am I wearing? How do I feel? Do I have a migraine? Is somebody with me? Is my kid with me? Where's this happening? Is this happening in my car? Am I waiting at a bus stop? Am I alone? Am I, what's the situation? What's the environment? What's the general feel? You need to have an understanding of if an individual, like a lot of people harp about situational awareness in the self-defense, it's such a buzzword now. It's fucking, oh, situational. If you don't have situational awareness, yeah, it's very important to have situational awareness.
They don't even fully understand
like
what that actually means.
No, for the most part, they don't. But and then you have a quarter. That's just a quarter of it. You have to have self-awareness. Do you understand your own triggers? Do you understand what your own coping mechanisms are? Are you in tune with your intuition? Do you trust it? Are you aware of the differences between intuition and paranoia and how it functions? Do you even know what fucking intuition is outside of what you read in some self-help book or some fucking self-defense guru book? Can you explain it on a scientific level, how it functions? Then you've got behavioral awareness, general baseline behavior of any environment that you're in. Is anything off? Do you understand what behavioral red flags and green flags are in relation to each environment that you're in? Then environmental awareness. How's this environment going to play a role if anything occurs in here? Am I going to trip over this bag, this curb? If I hit the guys, what are the odds he might fall and bang his head on a piece of furniture or the floor?
We're not in the dojo.
We're not in the fucking dojo, right? And then you've got situational awareness. And you've mentioned that it happens so often, the one punch knockout where the person falls, bangs their head and dies, that they're making documentaries about it now. And we know personally so many people that they know people it's happened to or it's happened to them.
Yeah.
One guy who took our master class recently in the UK, it happened, he knows three people that it happened to. Two of his friends are dead and one's in jail.
What the fuck?
One punch knockout.
And this is fucking stupid bar.
Yeah.
Three of them.
Right. Which is 70% of and this is what we're talking about. 66% of males where they perish in social die situations just like that. But that said, there's a lot of instances, and then you have so many self-defense systems that teach learn to hit fucking hard, man. Knock them out, like they literally train for that. And it's like you're not in the ring. You're not in the ring. Yeah. You're teaching kids that. You get a 17, 18-year-old kid who's going to go to fucking, university or college or high school or whatever, get into some scrap, not de-escalate because de-escalation is for pussies. Stand up, man. But the guy walks in, fucking nails him. Kid drops, kills another 17-year-old kid just like him because his head banged on the desk or a chair or the ground. Right. And that happens often enough. Like we said, that
there really should be. It'd be almost impossible to do this, but there really should, in some sense, be a governing body that monitors and makes martial art and self-defense instructors accountable for what they're teaching. Some responsibility behind it, because I can't imagine how many have indirectly been responsible for shit like this happening, that have literally blood on their hands because they are teaching glorified murder and manslaughter.
It's the old 1980s Cobra Kai, right? It's definitely that.
Very much. Yeah. It's fear and anger based. It's not strategic based. There's no tactics to what you're doing.
No.
Your entire system is fear and anger based. There's a rape factory at every corner. Somebody's in every alley.
They need to smoke, right?
Yeah, for sure. No,
a little bit. Maybe we should, toke and then, do some.
Is it a tomahawk to go buy milk at the store? Where the fuck do you live?
A joint for brains.
Yes, yeah, I know, right? No, I love that kind of like Joe Rogan had said a long time ago during a comedy routine. He's like, you know what? I could stop all the war in the Middle East. Let's just bring these planes and we'll just crop dust these motherfuckers with chronic smoke. Yeah. And then when the smoke clears, we'll drop in like pizzas and we'll be like, why the fuck am I fighting you? Why am I trying to kill you? I just need to have a pizza with you, my friend. And it totally is like that. Like that's one of the great things that we've learned about it is that. And that ultimately has like I've avoided so much more of the violent world that I wanted to be a part of, not realizing, and I appreciate you guys bringing that, the CSPD is that definitely I was checking boxes in my head. I'm like, yup. And it came from stemming my dad was, I'm a half-breed kid here in Utah at the time, was predominantly 100% white. And maybe some Polynesians, and that was it. And I grew up with that constantly being in street fights from when I was a little kid up till when I left to the Navy, in the Navy, when I got back out of the Navy. And it was just this end where it's just a cycle.
You're in survival mode constantly. Yeah.
Like I always thought it would.
That.
Right. I mean, and Rich, I'm sure you can, relate to this. Like, I thought I was fucking nuts because everywhere I went, all I was going, where are the exits? Which ones are the biggest threats? All right.
Yeah.
If that guy moves over here, what weapons do I have available? Is my back up against the wall? Like, I would freak out going to a Denny's.
You're hyper vigilant and environmental awareness. So just have
That's a product of PTSD or CPTSD.
Yeah. There's a lot of, we know a lot of people that do that, where to the point that
I was like that.
they'll specifically
I used to be like that.
and put the chair to the wall of the table, and like the back can't be exposed. It has to be the chair. They'll be literally sitting at a table like this, but they're sitting like this, talking to us. And like, is your neck not killing you now? It's been an hour. Like, it's all okay. We're safe. Right?
My back. I mean, like, where do we live? Like,
he's not going to hit you with a walker. You're fine.
That's my understanding.
Exactly.
Like, in terms of, a lot of people go, oh, we teach threat assessment. Yes, and you see threats everywhere. Everything is a fucking threat. That's not threat assessment. That's paranoia. There's a big difference. Yeah. Threat assessment is understanding that unless I live in a neighborhood where people are getting jacked in every fucking corner all the time, I don't need to carry 12 knives to go get my milk.
Yeah.
Or rent a video or fucking whatever I'm going to do. I mean, rent a video. Who does that anyway?
That's cool, dude. You brought me back. I was like,
the 90s so much. I'm in Blockbusters right now.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, right?
No, it is, but it truly is. It's just like, you're not walking around in this crazy violent. I used to carry a pistol on me all the time until I didn't. And people are like, oh man, I mean, shouldn't you wear one? Like, I live in Utah. Like, it's like one of like the third largest state of gun owners in the United States. And yet we don't have a lot of violence.
Or a lot of gun violence.
We don't have a lot of gun violence, and we don't have school shootings because everybody is armed. And so everybody's a little bit more cognizant of that. And it kind of just took away this Hollywood dramatization that I created in my head of like, oh, well, I'll respond really quick. And I'm like, do you think that any soldier, any special forces guy, when they get out, and a great place to watch that is Sean Ryan podcast. Like, he talks to all those big guys from all of the special forces, and all of them are really fucked up, horrible lives. They were a hero when they had their uniform on and killing and doing all that stuff. But then they're told, all right, go back like you were before.
Yeah.
How do you reset?
We have no support.
Just support.
Thanks for risking your life and going through all this crap, and
it's really weird.
But no support for you when you come back.
You fucked up? Need some pills?
Yeah, they'll give you pills.
Like forever.
I know, right?
It freaks me out. It's like, it's been like this forever. It's not. It's also common knowledge at this point. Yet people still enlist, and then they come out and they complain. It's like, well, didn't you fucking know?
But there's also.
What you think is going to change when you get in?
But there's also I know there's a lot of family where it's a generational. It's like my father was in the army in the ground foot, right? So there's that.
That's what they do.
That's what you do, and also you have to remember too that the military pays for education and all of that stuff. And when you come from somewhere where you have no money and no opportunity, this is an opportunity to give yourself opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's not so easy for a lot of
I joined for that reason.
If I don't die, I'll come back completely mentally fucked up. But hey, I'll have a couple of bucks in my pocket.
I'll have an education. I'll have it right. How bad can it be growing up in this? How bad can it be? At least I can support myself and right. And
one more zone.
It's not that easy as just don't do it.
No. And they don't come. A lot of them don't come back. A lot of them. I got a brother. Like, I mean, that's in the post office. He's a postmaster, and you would see him going, yeah, this guy was in war, and he's seen some crazy shit, and he's done some crazy shit, and he has now been coming to realities of things that he did, and things that he can't justify.
Yeah,
and a lot of them come back that way, and it goes right back to what you said before. One, smoke chronic, then think about what you're about to do. But before that, if it does get to that point, like you've got to be able to assess real quickly because not everybody is looking for violence. A lot of times they're just responding to their emotions and are not self-aware and going, I've got to retaliate. And
Reaction.
yeah, and that's, I mean, a lot of people that knew me growing up and a lot of people that I trained myself over the years, like I'd stop teaching completely just because of the simple fact that all I had were people looking to be able to go and like, how much violence can I do? And being the instructor
learning
and
to fight, not
right.
defend.
In
But
my
I was-
opinion, that the entire combatives industry
Is that
is that. It's basically, I'm going to learn how to beat people up.
because I was a bully
So,
child
bully
and no one's
child.
going to bully me again.
Yep.
See, I was bullied, but that never interested me. I've
Yeah.
never wanted to like beat the
And not
shit out of
everyone is
someone.
like that. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I'd much rather de-escalate. But like
Yeah.
if I can defend myself, that's fine. Granted, I'm not great at that. Jesse and I tried to do jujitsu stuff and he was training me and fuck, we did these punches and stuff just on his pads. And my hands were so fucking
because you're not
sore.
supposed to do that, right?
For
I mean,
like-
it's your body's not meant. That's for grabbing and pulling, not for pushing these small, tiny bones against other hard, sharp bone. Like,
Yeah, and in reality, you don't have protective gear.
no, and
It's not smart, really, to punch someone bare knuckled in the face.
Oh,
It's
I mean, that would
not.
hurt
It's,
so bad.
Exchanging fluid and breaking
Reality.
glass and,
right,
and it's not doesn't have stopping power necessarily.
and you don't realize what I mean. I don't know how many fights that I left where I didn't know what happened to the other guy,
Yeah,
and I don't know if his life changed because of that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know, I was a kid, and this other kid and I were just scuffling over a girl, and I hit him so hard in the chest. To him, he was just like he was terrified of me even years after.
yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm sorry. We were kids. And he's like, yeah, but that terrified me. And I'm like, I'm so sorry that did. And you don't realize that the unintended, just like you said,
Aftermath.
No.
yeah,
Aftermath.
you don't intend that.
There's an aftermath beyond the situation itself. What is that aftermath? It's not fun to get physical with someone for most people. And if it is fun for you to get through, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, there was
Something
definitely
you
something
know.
wrong with
Big red
me.
flag.
Yeah.
It's a big red flag, but it's not fun to get physical. You experience, right? It's traumatized. And there's an aftermath. Like it doesn't just end there and that's the end of it and you forget that it ever happened. You don't. You know, and what happens in that situation? Is there a legal aftermath? Are you getting charged? Maybe you don't get charged criminally, but now are they going to sue you? And the civil lawsuit system, I mean, that process is years and years and years. And if they win, you're going to have a reminder coming out of your bank account every month, you know, for what you have to pay that person to remind you of that stupid mistake you made.
And there's the potentiality of revenge.
And you got revenge. And
your
revenge doesn't
family.
necessarily mean violence. It could be, you know, in this day and age, they could, if you're a business owner, they could destroy your business with slander, with all kinds of stuff. They could vandalize your car, your home. They could go after someone you love, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that there's so many,
They're gonna fuck you up.
there's way too many unknowns. And going back to it's not black and white. It's lots of shades of gray. And a lot of those shades of gray, it's like if you look at like a huge diagram with all the circles and they all overlap and you don't know. At the end of the day, you don't know. And what are you willing to risk? Because you don't know.
Yeah, it just makes me, you know, I really do. I rarely find anybody in the cannabis community that is a pretty violent person. Like it's been a
No, you don't.
rarity.
It's you know, it's rare. I mean, and even like the studies that have done, the only people that they feel that it's, you know, not for, or it can potentially is someone that has, you know, paranoid personality disorders, right? Because
So we even had a doctor on who talked about that. Because cannabis in general is biphasic, where in low doses it has a different effect than it does in high doses.
Yeah.
That is with
microdose,
everyone.
Yeah.
And they notice that even in people who have psychosis or they're like, oh, this is dangerous for them, they found that small doses was actually helpful for them.
Yeah.
Versus it has the same biphasic effects on them that it does on anyone else, where large doses is not beneficial. But small microdoses is actually really beneficial for their mind states.
Oh,
So it's like,
very cool.
so it's interesting because it's like dosing. proper dosing for
just a
anything.
microdosing, but with cannabis.
Jeannie was mentioning that.
Yeah, she was. That's very cool to hear.
So yeah, I was like, oh, because I'd never heard anything more on it, but she was like, oh yeah, there's more into that and more research, and she definitely studies way more.
They're researching all this, and it's helping, and it's becoming more, not just accepted, but like funded and legalized. And like in Canada, microdosing and you can, there's clinics and stuff you can go to now, and that help. So it's great. It's progress, right?
Yeah,
adjusting it.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
We'll have you guys' links below for everyone who wants to go.
And the events over there, we'll have links for that.
Sign up for your events, all of that.
Everybody go down there, check it below. If you're interested, which I know you are, go on there, click on it. They're going to be having these online courses. It's fantastic, especially if you're new to cannabis over there and you're a little bit of a rageaholic. I think that'd be a pretty good idea. I'm speaking from a former rageaholic, right? Talking to a former rageaholic.
I'm a road rageaholic.
He very much is.
That like really just like, oh my gosh, this discussion, I was like, Jesus Christ.
I'm an asshole.
I'm an asshole.
But that's okay.
Traumatized my kids,
everybody
my
knows
partners, all my friends. Everyone has ridden in the car with me because I'm a fucking asshole. Like,
well, you weren't if you didn't know. Now you know. If you don't change, you'll be an asshole. Yeah. We had 3 guys walk out. We had 3 guys in the UK last year. And they're high level, like tough guys.
Alpha males.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Who after the workshop went home because we spoke about the road rage and how it's abusive on a non-intentional level. Just pretty much what we said here. And they went home and apologized to the wives and kids. Yeah. After the workshop. Now that's how you outbirth violence, huge. Man. That's huge. See, because their kids now are going to grow up differently.
And the kids, I mean, imagine your father coming to you and saying, I just realized something, that my behavior was unacceptable and it hurt you, and I'm really sorry, and I'm going to do better.
Yeah.
Imagine what that does to
the kid.
For a kid. Like, that's massive. And the relationship with your spouse, too. Like, that's
come home and say that to your spouse and then actually work on it and not do it. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine how that strengthens the relationship, the bond with the kid? It's
like, then it teaches the children too.
It transcends fucking punching people in the face and kicking people in the nuts, and people have to realize that defense isn't about fighting. It's not about violence. Like, going back to your loved one, this is about making self-aware, self-beneficial, evolutionary self-changes, understanding our own personal coping mechanisms and demons. Listen to the word self-defense. It starts with the goddamn word self-defense. Ain't nobody gonna fuck up your life more than you, ever.
Yeah.
Denominator in every single situation outside from when you were a child. Once you've hit the point of adulthood, anything that's fucked up in your life after that, you look at every single event, you'll have different people's situation and environments. You're the common denominator in every single one. If you find yourself attracting these things, if you find yourself, all relationships, I only attract these types of people or these types of jobs.
There's a reason
behind it, and it's you. It's not them.
Not blaming. That's just looking at, again, the psychology behind it. There's a reason behind all of this, and we can do something about it, right? There's a solution to it. So let's find that solution and work.
And it's not, there's definitely tools that can help improve the situation by tenfold.
Yeah.
If certain things are not fixable, right? We have certain conditions, certain CPTSD, but if we have an awareness and we understand our own mechanisms, then we can work with these things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Your level.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, and our audience is all about that. I mean, finding ways to be able to de-escalate and being able to be more self-aware and just realizing, that person over there, I mean, would you be talking to them? Would you be that upset after you smoked? So that's the thing that I think about a lot. Like when I'm really frustrated, when he's frustrated, I'm not going to say something stupid. I'm going to go say
to my partner, I'm like, I need to go smoke, because whatever is going to come out, like,
that's self-awareness right there.
Yeah.
But it's like the times of me as a young father was way reactive because my dad, it was yell, like that was just how it was. And it's like, you get smacked real fast. It's just stop, because this is, better. We don't do that.
It's learning to respond rather than react.
Yeah.
And they're two different things, right? And whatever you need, like you're saying, you guys need to smoke. I I feel myself. I'm
Yeah.
triggered. I'm emotionally dysregulated. I feel it coming on. I need to smoke. That's huge.
Well, and it's
That's
like, all right,
significant,
you take that
right?
time, and that's, I mean, having that time has allowed me, even in the moments of, both my kids are here and they're just being assholes to each other,
Yeah.
saying things and fighting and that, and then I snap and I
Yeah.
yell at them and I'm like, oh shit. But now I'm like really quick to apologize because I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
so too.
This is like a reaction because this is just triggered from when I was young. This is just how, like,
That's amazing.
and I'm like,
You tell them
and like,
that. They need
but
to
it's,
know.
and I'm like, and I'm really sorry for yelling, but I'm like, but it really frustrates me when you guys treat each other like that.
Yeah.
You know, when
you have a conversation about it.
yeah,
not just-
because
you
I know that
off.
I'm fucking human and I am like,
Yeah,
I'm
you can be
still slip up, I
upset.
make
Yeah,
mistakes.
totally.
And like,
Yeah.
but it's the realization of like, damn it, I didn't show up in the best way I should have.
Yeah.
Because I could have shown up better.
And
And I
that's
didn't.
by far more beneficial for you. I mean, I've done the same thing. You talk to my wife, like they still are very skittish around me, even after years of me making a lot of changes and then last like
Well,
5 months.
it's PTSD.
It's out of them.
That learned reaction and the like, right? And it takes time. And again, it's just having conversations.
Right.
This is why I reacted that way. It goes back to this and blah, blah, I'm really working on a lot. It's teaching them to converse and express and right and not just bottle up, shut down, look, right? You take that and
But it changes everybody around you, though.
Yeah,
it really
yeah.
affects your environment.
yeah.
And it can come
on
from
that.
past, you can bring that from past relationships too. Like
Yeah.
Pam came from a past relationship where, communication wasn't the strongest point. But between us, it is. And
Emotional
she's
abuse,
up to
yeah.
a certain
Yeah.
point, it's still sometimes hard for her to communicate because she expects a certain reaction that I never gave.
Yeah.
Never. I've always been responsive and open and to everything she said.
It's not an overnight thing that can happen, right? It's
Right.
when
Takes
you
time.
lived a certain way your entire childhood, or for that relationship before Rich was 10 years of that of 10 years of behaving a certain way and reacting a certain way. It's
A lot of learned things.
You need a minute
Yeah.
to recognize and adjust and then and talk yourself
And
out of-
unlearn all of these.
unlearn and calm the anxiety and convince yourself that they're not that
Okay.
person. They're not going to react the same way that the other person did. It's not the same. It's not the same, right? So, but it takes.
There's a lot of that. My partner, she had there's similarities between me and her ex-husband, but we are drastically different at the same time. So something will trigger her and she'll snap and go off. And I'm like, well, where's this coming from? Like, what's going on here? And then she realizes, I'm sorry, like this is from, these past experiences and
Yeah.
that. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't that moment. Like this is okay. We are
Yeah.
okay. These moments
Yeah.
aren't those moments. And it takes time. It's like
It
trauma sticks with us.
does. And it takes
like
some
being
time. And,
altered.
it's those are emotional flashbacks. And,
Yeah.
Most flashbacks are emotional. They're not an actual memory. It's,
Like
it's,
the-
it's the emotion that you're flashing back to. And that's heavy. Right. And that takes a lot to work through. It definitely takes time and patience, and that kind of knowledge is power again. Right. So in communication, and you're both cycle breakers.
Yeah.
And that's massive. That's such a key to the world being a better place, is
Right.
breaking cycles.
And such an monumental factor in violence prevention.
Huge.
Both in because abuse, at the end of the day, abuse produces one of two things: predators or victims.
Yeah.
And so if a child goes through X amount of years of abuse, roughly 35 to 40% of them are going to become abusers, right?
But most will become abused.
victims, whereas the other,
Some will become both.
and some
Right?
become both. Yeah.
So where they're both.
Jeez.
But either way, it's
It's heavy.
it's heavy,
very,
but that's
very heavy.
No, but it is. It's supposed to be.
where we are with our kids too, right? That's where the outbirthing comes in. This is where, I've been teaching my kid this stuff since day one. He's 12 now. I don't think I've taught him any physical moves. When he was younger, we did boxing stuff on the pads, but it wasn't for self-defense. We were just for fun. But
Yeah, just for fun.
pure self-defense. He's been learning nothing but understanding behavior, red flags, green flags, understanding intuition, his intuition is very powerful. His situational environmental awareness skills, right? So we play on a lot of that. That's what, and when I talk to him about people potentially hurting him, I tell him it's gonna, if it happens, it's gonna come from your circle, because violence, generally speaking, outside of serial killers, which is driven mostly by compulsions,
when they're rare.
Yeah, violence is a I lost my train of thought there for a second.
It's going to come from the people around.
It's going to come from the people around you, because the violence has motive.
Mm-hmm.
There's
There's
emotion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's
closest to you.
that could be
Yeah.
jealousy, insecurity, misdirected anger and fear, right? And then you fall into the realm of antisocial personality disorders, where you've got narcissism, psychopathy, sociopathy, Machiavellianism. And I said, so we're looking at these behaviors. If you have certain people, where all of a sudden behavior change, they ask you to do something that they never asked you to do before, that makes you feel uneasy, you always go with your gut.
Yeah.
And always trust your gut, and always walk away, especially if the behavior turns into a pattern. Because a behavioral red flag doesn't become a red flag until it becomes a pattern.
Or it's combined with other red flags that are also a pattern.
That also becomes.
When it comes to kids too, and Rich's case with his kid is the communication with them. You come to us with anything.
I never punish
anything.
my kid.
It doesn't matter. You're never gonna.
It's stupid. Punishment doesn't work.
Right? Is really
never punish them. Never hit them.
Building that rapport of being confident to come to you with anything.
Yep.
Not feeling embarrassed, not feeling ashamed, not feeling any of that, right? That they trust. There's that real open, honest, trusting communication. Because when that starts to lax, that's when kids can get in trouble.
Yep.
Right? They're too scared to come to their parents with anything.
They're going to go elsewhere.
That's a dangerous.
Because it's not a safe space.
Slippery slope.
They don't feel like their parent is a safe space to come to.
Parent has to be the safe space, because if not, they're going to go somewhere else for a safe space. And guess what? That space is not going to be a safe space. That's when kids get victimized. You gotta.
Yeah, it happens too often.
Yeah.
Way too often.
Yeah. It's horrible. Rich, Pam, we could talk all day to you guys.
Yeah.
We're like for 2 hours there. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. No, but this has been amazing. Seriously. Thank you guys so much. Rich, as always, man, I love consuming your content.
Thank you.
I have completely changed my idea of who you are today compared to then, and I love the evolution, because
Thank you.
It's
Thank you
super cool, because even though you come with this thing, I mean, if it came down to it, I'm so glad that you have these skills. You've taught these skills to other people, but I'm so glad that you're teaching them. The most important part, both you and Pam, is that, with our minds, we're able to be more cohesive, be more together, instead of trying to create a violent world, because that never does anything to be able to bring us together. So
we strongly see the impact this also has just on families and communities as a whole. It's not just avoid, prevent. It changes.
It's a domino effect.
It's a domino. It's huge.
Absolutely.
Generational.
Absolutely.
It's generations.
It's fixed relationships. It's helped countless people in various different ways that had nothing to do with hitting anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's cool. So we'll have all that information down below.